So I put them both in the presentation. So she generally knows better. I'll fight her on stuff, and then everyone will be like, why is that in there? Because I liked it. Yeah, exactly. They're repouring Wacker Drive. It's like a 12-year project that, it's probably a 6-year project because it's Chicago and unions are involved. It takes 12 years. But right now, the portal that right in between me and the train station is the part they're working on. So for the next year, you have to walk through this little tube. And in the winter, to try to reduce the wind, it's covered in, I want to say it's like a tarp, but it's more like vinyl. And I was just standing in there. Again, that's handheld. I did kind of work myself into the corner. And I was just shooting. So those are kind of blurry people walking by. Again, that's straight out of the camera, though. No saturation or anything. It's pretty remarkable. This one I was asked to leave. I had the beanbag on the floor. And it's funny. Instead of just the one conductor guy to come over, like, they must have seen me because I started out with it on the top and I didn't like it, so I went real low to be a little more dramatic. And this is about, I'll say about a 6-second exposure because it's almost too long. If I had more time, I would have done less exposure because you're almost losing the fact that there's guys in here, that there's people on the escalator. And this is the camera. You can go up to 6400, and then you can, in the menu, go up to high, which is past 6400. And this is past that, and it's remarkably grainy. This is too grainy for my taste. But it's really dark around. But I was down shooting, and instead of the conductor just coming, can you keep moving? They went and got someone. They got someone. So I turned around. There were 3 cops and like 6 conductors. Oh, what are you doing, sir? Do you have permission from Jones Lang LaSalle to be doing this? I'm like, no, I was just playing with my Pinhole camera. And they're like, you just need to keep moving. So I did. Sears Tower, unless you're, it's now Willis Tower, which is all the kids in Chicago think is horrifying. Do you still call it Sears Tower? This one I did desaturate a little bit. I was playing with the color, and I got it to black and white, and I didn't like it, so I was bringing it back. This is another one with the highlight that's I like. We were trying to figure out what this is, if that's a mouse on the back side of on the cap, but even in here, this little blooming and the color down here, it really adds to the photograph. That's my stop too, by the way.
I would have thought that you would be able to get that kind of definition with that kind of motion. That's one of the things I've been afraid to do yet.
I do a lot of motion. I blur a lot of stuff. If you look at my website and stuff.
Well, I would expect, like total loss of everything. But in this situation, you've got detail along the train grill. You can see that very clearly, but you can also see very clearly that it's in motion.
Yeah.
Which is that phenomenal.
And you have to work quick, because the train goes by, and if I'm, I take the same train every day, so I know what the exposure is now on a sunny day. I can play with that. But this was just, a happy accident that, I got out and started shooting, and you get, a couple seconds to get the exposure right, and then I had the beanbag, but that's on the side, and then I was immediately thinking I've got another beanbag. I could put it on the side of the camera, so you can go both ways. But that's why it's down low, because it was on the ground to keep.
And this was, I shot 3 of them, and that was the sharpest one back there. The other 2, because it was a long exposure, I was holding the camera vertically on the ground. There was a little bit of movement, a little bit of blur.
A turnbuckle on lights, and it was just the sky is naturally polarized when you're 180 degrees to the sun. When the sun's right behind you, the sky is always darkest. So I was walking in just gorgeous dark sky in the plane. I think this is, we're almost to the last. This one is, I do have a print of this one. It is, I am in the maximum high speed ISO, and it is very grainy, but it works for this image. There's a lot more contrast in the image, and it really works.
There's highlights. We're on the train image. Everything was that kind of muted, and they got like 3 sodium vapors and a mercury vapor to kind of emulate natural light. But this one, it works, and it's very grainy, but I feel like, the focal point being her in pink, it really worked, and the grain
added to the kind of grayness of the image. This is one of my favorites. Just walking around, playing with it downtown. orange cabs, which are so many of my shots. I always wait for like a yellow cab to go through. To me, that just really feels like urban work. But this one, bright orange cabs, hit at the right time. Thanks for coming. There's one more. Hold on. There you go. DirkFletcher.com is my website. Dirk Fletcher Blogspot is my blog that is updated not as often as it should be, but it's cool when it is. There'll be all kinds of images from here. So questions, concerns? How they do on time? Was I supposed to go an hour? That's perfect. Ask me 7 minutes worth of questions, and I'll get a gold star. No one?
Have you tried any of the, you have a full frame set, so have you tried any of the infrared modes or any of those little things to see what's going to happen with that?
That's funny. I haven't, but that's the next thing. I was asking him because someone at work took their old, and Nikon, you can practically do it on your lunch break. If you convert, you can take your DSLR. If you upgrade your DSLR, you can take your old one, and they say convert it to infrared, but actually what they do is you just pull the infrared filter out, and you put in a piece of optical glass. And a student did it on his, it took less than an hour and a half to do it on Nikon. And someone at work does have one on a Canon, and I haven't shot with it yet. I'm curious to do it in real life plus in post-production to see what the differences are. I shoot a lot of the only thing that has kept me from really jumping out on that is I do a lot of, like my main subjects are transportation. I shoot a lot of airplanes, a lot of trains. My summer project is I drew a 50-mile circle around my house, and I'm going to go photograph the top 10 polluters that live within 50 miles of my house, and some of them are remarkably close. I know.
They may not like that.
Oh no, I'm sure they won't. That's going to be a film project. I'm going to shoot 2 1/4. I've got super wide, and I'm just going to do all either 38 or 80 millimeter lens on film for that. But a lot of the subjects that I shoot aren't going to be real affected by infrared. It's concrete and steel versus foliage. The gentleman at work that does a lot of infrared, his name's Tim Arroyo. If you Google him, it's Arroyo Imaging. Shoots a lot of portraiture that is just gorgeous with IR. He does maternity photos and portraiture that it turns, if you've seen infrared pictures, it just makes everyone look like a cherub. It just makes the face so smooth and wonderful. But yeah, that's on my list of summer things to try, especially when I get out. The reason I told you about the summer project is that I know that for a fact I'll be doing a lot of stuff with green grass. And even though that's a digital, or ultimately I want that to be a film project, I still take a big bag of stuff and all these kind of weird.
Someone asked me a question this morning that was I couldn't answer about HDR. Have you done any stuff with that?
Not with this. I use HDR, and I didn't mean to. Whoever said, "Oh, I love HDR," and I kind of went, "Ooh, it's gimmicky." I think there's 2 ways to do HDR. One of them is where you take it and it turns into this crazy cartoon-like image. I don't like that, but as a functional tool, it's amazing. It's basically a digital zone system is all you're doing. You're able to expose for the shadows, expose for the highlights, and bring them together in one image. So as for architectural interiors, I wrote digital photography lighting for dummies, the ridiculous yellow books. And in the back, I talk about the 2 ways to use HDR as a functional tool versus as a creative tool. And as a functional tool, I love it. I haven't done anything with this yet.
I would be curious.
Yeah, because it does, especially like on the street scenes or stuff to get deeper into the shadows. The people walking on the street, that image was underexposed. I had to pull that up probably almost a full stop to the print you'll see on the table over there. And it suffers. It's grainy. So I'd be curious to see, anything obviously with people in it you can't do, because or it might work in your favor if they kind of disappear.
It might be almost surreal.
Exactly.
Pinhole photography gives you such great depth in the first place. Mm-hmm. Now you take a high dynamic range with 3 different images.
Yep.
3
or 6, or you can go as far as you want.
Right. No,
the other thing too that's really cool is over the summer, one thing we're going to do. Anyone been to Gary, Indiana? It is like one step up from Detroit. It is a steel town that in the mid '60s lost all of their clients basically, and the town has the most beautiful architecture you can imagine, but it's been abandoned. It's, I think, the murder capital of the world, or murder capital of the U.S. I'm sorry, and that comes and goes obviously year by year, and it's like 45 minutes from Chicago. And one thing we're doing this summer called the Gary Project, we're going to take a group, we're going to take every single class in the curriculum, and they're going to be held in Gary for a day. So if you're in a lighting people class, you're going to go do portraits. If you're in a commercial class, we're working to get a Tesla into a factory, into an abandoned factory. So if you're doing architecture, you're going to go do architectural details. And then at the end, in exchange for security, we're going to give the city access to the images, or we're going to give people that want to write a grant. Anyone applying for a federal grant, a government grant, can then access the images to use in the proposal. So part of that deal, we'll reach out to manufacturers to try to get them to loan us stuff so then they can get some press, and you kind of build this whole big press thing out of it. I've got this is a Hasselblad super wide that I got from the Holcher Corporation. They make high-speed cameras, and they were buying super wides, using them for the Holcherama to get the 38mm lens off of it, because Zeiss wouldn't sell it to them. So they said, we'll just buy the camera. And so they had a shelf of them. So I said, can I have one? They said, sure. So I started out building a Holga Blad, and didn't like it. It didn't look different enough. So this is now a Pinhole Hasselblad. But as part of the Gary project, we're working with Hasselblad. They're going to loan us a back, the digital back that I can use on my super wide and with Pinhole. So we can do some of these interiors. Some of the two places in specific that I'm really just itching to get into. It's an absolutely gorgeous theater that has so much detail, and when you stand in there and you don't make any noise, you can just hear water and silt just filtering through. And it's these places, I mean, they're damp, they've just been walked away from. There's not even any fences to scale. There's, the doors are left open, and it's just complete abandonment. It's really weird. We were in this one church that was used for both Transformers, and they did a remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, which I didn't even know until I was looking at the Gary website. I'm like, wow, they filmed Nightmare on Elm Street, like the remake? And it probably went straight to video because it was a couple of years ago and I don't remember seeing it. But we were in this church, this massive church, and across the street was a brand new child care center. So we're in this complete ruins. There's one room where some really bad stuff went on, and you can just tell something horrible went on in the one room. But we're in this whole building listening to kids laughing and playing from the school across the street, and it was just the weirdest thing. So we're also trying to get a video. We're not doing video in the summer. We do a multimedia class and intro to filmmaking, but they're not being held this summer. Otherwise, we can get them to come and videotape us in there. But there's some really weird kind of the dichotomy of Gary. So that's the Gary project, which will have some stuff as well.
I think you're going to have to move the pinholes to prevent vignetting on that big format.
I love the vignetting. Ever since I got Lightroom, every single picture I've ever taken needs a vignette. But if you think about it, when you're in the dark room, what's the last thing you do before you put the print in the, you burn, you dodge, you burn, you dodge, you do this, and then you put your hand over and you just knock the corners down. So that's part of what I'm looking for. With this is this camera was, like I said, it couldn't have been more than 2 inches deep on a 4x5. So it was vignetting, and that's kind of, I think, the reason why some of the early pinholes don't look good, because it's, they're out too far, or I've even seen people do like telephoto pinholes, which is, I think it loses the effect and the feel of the pinhole. And that's why I think that getting it closer in, actually the camera that I